This episode of Wrestling Changed My Life is brought to you by Spartan Combat. They're hosting a national tournament May 21st through the 23rd in Jacksonville, Florida. Register now at SpartanCombat.com.
I get super nervous, but as soon as I got on the mat, I was completely fine. Or I got in the cage, I was completely fine. Mm-hmm. It's like time to do work. But when I'd be in the back, I'd put a towel over my face, and then I breathe in deep, breathe out, and then I'd do the holding after, and then I'd be ready to go.
We can endure anything and adapt and pivot and change. Wrestling gave us that ability.
I would say nothing in life has impacted me more than the things wrestling has taught me in terms of self-reflection, resilience.
Toughness. Some guys have it, some guys don't.
Adversity, 100%. How to pick myself up and be a man after I failed.
And everything that has shaped my life and where I'm at today would not be there without the values and basically the lessons I've learned through the sport of wrestling.
For me, wrestling saved my life because it allowed me to focus and channel my energy.
We're fortunate if you wrestled, because if you wrestled, natural talent helps, but it's 5% of the ingredient. It pales in comparison to heart and technique and effort.
It humbled me, taught me humility. Nothing can humble you more than wrestling. I think it's the learning to adapt, right? You learn how to adapt, you learn how to solve problems.
If I look back at my time I spent wrestling, if it gave me one thing more than anything else, it's mental toughness.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Wrestling Changed My Life podcast with your host, Ryan Warner. Thanks for tuning in, as always. We do this for the fans, and I love you all for tuning into this show. Guest today is Paul Bradley, two-time All-American for the Hawks. He then went on to have a 13-year professional MMA fighting career. And now he's the assistant wrestling coach at Queen's University of Charlotte. There is nothing but love in this podcast. It's awesome. Paul and I talk for a better part of an hour and a half. I hope you enjoy it. Fan of the week goes to my man, Dustin Sanders. That's DCS_Sanders on the gram. Thank you for listening, Dustin. We appreciate it, brother. As always, folks, the Wrestling Changed My Life podcast is proudly presented by Spartan Combat. Spartan Combat's doing incredible things in the wrestling world. Go to SpartanCombat.com to learn more. And without further ado, let's give it up for the gentleman, Paul Bradley. Peace! Paul Bradley, the gentleman, welcome to the show.
Yeah, Ryan, thanks for having me on, man. Big fan. Really enjoyed the John Smith little podcasts about that, the episodes, and good stuff, man. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you. I remember the first time I saw you retweet something, I'm like, oh shit, that's Paul Bradley. So it means a lot, man.
Yeah.
So you South Tama, Iowa guy, Middle America guy. Now, would you consider South Tama the Quad Cities, or is that a little bit outside of it?
We're actually straight smack dab in the middle of the state. So if you know where Marshalltown, Iowa is, we're about 20 minutes east of that. And then Cedar Rapids is a big city. It's about, I want to say 45 minutes directly west of that on Old Highway 30. So yeah, pretty much in the smack dab in the middle of the state. So
wrestling country. You wrestled for Iowa. We just came out of the Big Tens, man. What do you take away from watching Spencer Lee? I mean, is there anyone that dominant that you've ever seen?
When I watch him, I just don't get, like, it's incredible, like how good he is on top. And it's just like on a whole different level. It's like a man wrestling like boys. It's, I try to think about guys like, I got pinned one time as a freshman in college or high school, and then one time as a freshman in college. And what he does to these really good college guys is just kind of unreal. You know what I mean? He's just on a different level. It's hard to believe like he's actually been beaten in his college career. So, he's unreal.
It really is hard to imagine that. I was thinking back, last night to when he had Tomasello at the Big Tens, and that was a great match. But
Mm-hmm.
man, when he gets on top, he grabs a wrist. It's like, what does he feel like?
Oh yeah, man. I try to teach his half bar series because he's so good at it. You know, because he just makes it look easy. But yeah, he's just on a different level. He must just be incredibly strong, like a Gable type strong or something, you know?
Yeah. Now I was thinking, if I ever have a kid, I'm teaching him the Spencer Lee high crotch to a dump, and then whatever he's doing on top, because holy smokes, it's going to be, it's just amazing to watch. And thinking to the Olympic trials, knowing that him and Dayton Fix and Gilman, woo, we're going to have some good wrestling.
Crazy.
Now you, when you were at Iowa, you were around a number of coaches. Who was the coaching staff when you came in August freshman year, Paul Bradley?
Okay, so when I first came in, it would have been Zalesky was ahead. Tom was assistant. And then, man, it's kind of crazy because, like you said, I've been through so many coaches. Third assistant would have been, heck, who did what? I think it was Bozatic. Then we had McAravey in there. Oh, it might have been McAravey. It was one of the two, but we had McAravey in there. And then, yeah, I believe Bill was our strength and conditioning coach at the time. So yeah, like I said, like you just said, I went through a number of coaching changes. So it's been kind of crazy.
Yeah, you saw a lot when you were there, and even outside of your own career progression, which ties into this nicely, the tension had never been higher in the Iowa room at the time. You know, the winning ways were about to come to a halt for a while, and maybe they already did. Because 2001, the Nationals were in Iowa City, and that was the first time Minnesota won. You were a senior in high school. Did you go to that one?
I did, actually. And, you know, being that, you know, I'd signed with Iowa at that point, but being an Iowa fan, it was kind of tough to watch. But, you know, at the same time, I got to see history made with Minnesota, which is still pretty incredible. Like, you can't knock them for that, you know. And it's kind of funny, too. Jay Robinson's daughter, Jordan, and her son, or his son, went to Iowa as well. So I was actually really good friends with Jordan, and she actually used to take care of my dog when we go to weigh dual meets and stuff. So I had that connection. But yeah, no, I mean, being in Iowa City when that happened, although it, you know, my Hawks didn't win it, I mean, it was still incredible to see a team do that because it'd never been done before.
Yeah, and at Carver Hawkeye, it had to just be crazy. Anytime a Minnesota guy wrestled, everyone's booing, everyone's going nuts.
Yeah,
man. So you get in there, a guy from your town, Wes Hand, you know, he had established himself as one of the better heavyweights in a long time for Iowa. You get in there, like, what's the dynamic in the room between Brands and Zalesky at that time?
You know, I mean, not a lot of people talk about it, and you know, I'm an open book, but there was some tension there. It was pretty obvious that, you know, Tom, you know, wanted Zalesky's job, and, you know, rightfully so, he should have been a head coach somewhere, but there was definitely some tension. Like I said, he didn't want us to lose, but at the same time, it was like he wanted to be the head guy, and he should have been, like I said, somewhere. So it was kind of awkward. Like I said, there was kind of like it was cut down the middle. So essentially 165 and above was Zalesky guys. And then below that, you were a Brands guys. So it was the dynamic, you know, I worked with Brands some too, but it was just kind of like unspoken, if that makes sense, you know?
Well, it does. And I've heard that before, but thinking back now, knowing that 01 was the first time Zalesky didn't win, his first 4 years, they won, and got second. So pretty tough to say he shouldn't have. I'm with you. I think, you know, he earned the right, and Brands obviously could have been a head coach elsewhere. So was it a situation where, like, it was two separate practices, or did you guys all come together on the bleachers ahead of time?
We all came together, you know, before practice. That dynamic always stayed the same. It was just, there was a little bit of tension there, you know, and not to jump ahead because I'm sure we'll get to it, but in 2004, I want to say it was pretty incredible what we did as a team, you know, sending 10 guys to the Nationals with, you know, some backups in there really. And then, winning the Big Ten and then taking second in the nation. And with Coach, Zalesky getting Big Ten Coach of the Year and Coach of the Year, it was, although it's not up to the Iowa standards, taking second, I mean, like I said, it was pretty incredible considering we didn't win the Big Ten dual meet conference, but we won the Big Ten championships and took second at the Nationals at Okie State. So.
Yeah, and that you were a big part of that. But for you to even get there, I love this story where you almost transferred to Virginia Tech. What? Yeah. Oh my God. So for folks who don't know your story, your true freshman year, you redshirt, take your beatings, you and Jessamine Smith, he was kind of big brothering you. Next year, you decide to go up a weight. And what happens then?
Okay. So, I knew I couldn't beat Jessamine. He just, like you said, he big brothered me. He owned me. He was the guy. And I knew that going to Iowa, I was probably going to have to sit a year, but then, maybe ego, maybe just seeing the atmosphere, being at the dual meets, like you want to be in there no matter what. So I was wanting to make it's not a sacrifice. I lifted hard all summer with the intent to go 97 where Fulcis was. And it was a hole at that point. Obviously he finished off his career. Like, it's kind of still crazy when you're watching his match with Han and they list his record as like 54 and 46, which is crazy. So, so the improvement was made, but that being said, I thought that was where I could get in the lineup, and we had a hell of a wrestle off. Actually, good funny story is Mark Perry was there on the recruiting visit, and he said that was kind of one of the reasons or helped seal the deal for him to come to Iowa was the intensity we had in the wrestle off, and it was nuts. It was close. My singlet got ripped off during the match, so here I am in my briefs in front of in front of a crowd of 400, 500 people in a room. There was some pushing and some shoving. He tried to shove me out of bounds. He turned his back to me, and I just straight up pushed him right in the back. And there was a controversial call at the end. A lot of people thought I had two, which would have sent us to a third match. And so I didn't win the wrestle off. I went, won some open tournaments, and then the big thing was I didn't place at the
Midlands.
The Midlands. Okay, yeah. So I believe he went like 1-2, and I lost in the blood round to a kid from Michigan who was pretty good, a 2-time All-American. But it was close. It was darn close. So after that, I was expecting a wrestle off. Well, when Zalesky told me I wasn't getting one, I got hot, and I went home for Christmas break for a little while and trained with Wes Hand, and he happened to be in town. And I started to talk with him about VTech, and then we started talking about it, and I'm thinking,
and he's at Virginia Tech at the time, right?
He's at Virginia Tech at the time. So, we're talking, and I get back and I get back to Iowa, and I'm still a little perturbed, a little upset I didn't get that wrestle off. And, I asked to have a meeting with Zalesky, and, we say almost transferred, but I mean, I got in the office and he shut it down immediately. So I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about going to VTech. And he's like, no, you're not. I was like, okay, what, no, he's like, you're getting better this season. You're traveling with the team. You're the next guy in. He's like, and I know that your best bet is to be here. We're going to make you the best. We're going to give you the best chance to be a national champion. I was like, done. That's all he had to say, but that's how it was, he just shut it down. And it was back in the day where you didn't have a transfer portal. It wasn't easy. And you were kind of stuck with the school you went to, so, and I'm happy you did it. Like I said, it was another year for me to grow, be in the grind, and travel with the team. And it was good. So,
well, the reason I ask is and we'll hit on this next, is the relationship, with Zalesky is pretty cool. And Zalesky just does not get a lot of love from his time at Iowa. And he's one of the best college wrestlers ever. And a lot of people say as a coach, he was like the J-Rob of the 90s, where he was the guy leading technique and things like that. And so I want to give some dabs to Coach Zalesky, but I got to ask first, why wouldn't he give you a wrestle off if Folsis wasn't getting it done?
You know, I never really questioned it. He was coming on, you know, at points, and then he would drop down. And we got to remember that year he didn't even make the nationals, but he beat Damian Hahn in the Minnesota Iowa duel like 2 weeks before. So he had his moments. Yeah, he beat Damian Hahn, tried to cradle him, and he peeked out and beat him in the duel. So it was just nuts, and I never really. I guess it was one of those things where I've really never asked questions of why not. But, you know, I attribute that a little bit to me not placing at the Midlands. I didn't show the coaches like, hey, I'm the guy, you know, even though I went, I want to say like 4-2, and I didn't place, and neither did Folsis. So it's kind of a wash.
Yeah. And that year did you start a match that year against Minnesota?
I did.
Okay.
I got to wrestle heavyweight against Garrett Lowney, which was kind of funny. Here I am, like, you know, just what was it, like on a Tuesday or Wednesday before, and we wrestled on Friday. We're like sitting in the bleachers, completely unexpected. Like Zalesky didn't pull me aside before the practice, and we're just sitting there. You know, he's talking, and he's like, "Bradley, you're going at heavyweight." I'm like, "What?" So I got fired up, and yeah.
You got to tell why Mocco wasn't in there though. What happened? Because people forget how crazy this stuff was.
So I happened to be traveling with the team at the time, and don't let me forget to bring up the Bill Zadok incident at that dual meet, which which is crazy. So we're there at Michigan State. Mocco pins, we win. Okay, like I said, it was a tough year. We're having an off year. And Mocco's getting the pin, and it's obvious he's flat, but I don't know if the pressure of the crowd and the ref, he was, you know, it was a lot to take in. And, you know, you got Zalesky slapping me on the back as a ref, you know, as a coach. And he gets up, and yeah, the guy like says something to him, and Mocco stomps on him. So, you know, water bottles coming down from the crowd. It was pretty ugly. And then a little bit later on, bringing up Bill Zadok, he's coming back, and he's got this giant cut under his eye. Well, I don't even know how the heck it started, but apparently him and Folsis got into it, and Folsis throws a punch at him and cuts him wide open. Not a lot of people know that. And I'm just like, I still don't know the reason today, but like I said, in the heat of the moment, apparently things got out of hand, or yeah, so it was bizarre and nuts, but yeah, that's how I started my first match at Iowa. You know, pretty nuts, because thankfully Mocco got suspended for that match and not Big Tens, which, you know, he goes over that in the documentary on Flow. Mocco, I mean, had we not had Minnesota, there was no Big Ten tournament for him, so we were lucky in that aspect. Like I said, I got to wrestle Lowney, who, you know, was a Olympic bronze medalist in Greco, super tough, and I had a good match with him. I lost 5-2, but yeah, I definitely probably shouldn't have shot a high crotch on my first shot on him, but
you were just out there shooting from the hip, man. First time at Carver.
Dude, I was all fired up. You know, it was good. Like I said, you know, although we lost, actually, there was no pressure on me with Folsis having just beat Han that sealed the dual meet. So that was cool, you know.
And like that story is just one that's legend and Hawkeye history. And I'm trying to remember, was that the year where ESPN followed you guys for the season, or was that the year before?
That was the first year. That would have been in 2001 to 2002. And yeah, I mean, I tried to stay out of the camera as much as possible, being a little freshman, but there's pretty much, sadly, that my camera time is me exhausted or Jessamine Smith choking me on the mat. So yeah.
Dude, when that came out as a middle schooler when there's no internet, that was the coolest thing I've ever watched. I recorded it, must have watched it 50 times. I mean, that opening scene where Brands is sitting there and giving like the montage on why wrestling is what it is, it's like unbelievable. What was it like having those cameras around? Were they around like everywhere you guys went?
Everywhere. Like I said, being a freshman and redshirting that year, it didn't bother me at all because they weren't following me around. But I can only imagine, like, having them follow me around and trying to perform and get a start and the pressure that comes with that. And as coaches, there was a ton of pressure when you're being followed by, someone like ESPN. But yeah, it was pretty crazy. I mean, people watch that Okie State part where, the next morning where we lost, and it was just as intense as the camera showed. Like, it was a miserable workout. It's funny too. I think of when Zalesky put the box down. You don't see that. They cut that out, but he puts a box down before he talks. And what the box is there for. He's going to kick it. Well, he kicks it and gets his foot stuck in it. So it's kind of funny watching him try to shake it out, but you can't laugh. So yeah, then they show the part where he's yelling at some guys. But yeah, it was the day after was miserable, man. Like,
I forgot about that one. He gives the speech where he talks about he had to go home and watch Gladiator that night. Yes. Oh my God. These are,
and then they use, when they're showing domination and they're showing, what is it? TJ Williams, like shadow wrestling. And it was awesome. It was intense. But as far as like, yeah, I'm just glad it wasn't when I was like the starter, let's put it that way. That would have put too much pressure. But yeah, it was just as intense as the cameras showed.
When you think about that, was Brands last year there. Mocco gets second. It's already a tough year. I mean, not bad, but just tough, and then you got the cameras around. Holy smokes, that must have been an interesting.
Just to correct you, Brands' last year was actually in 2004.
Got it.
Yeah.
Oh, so he was only at Virginia Tech for 2 years then.
Right. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So one of the things, I heard you on the Quad City area podcast, and got to give love to those guys. I'm from the Quad Cities.
Yep.
One of the things you said, though, before you really turned the corner at Iowa was when you came in, you were beating Tyler Nix, or not even going good with them. But then when you started getting beat by Jasmine Smith, your confidence lowered and you were doing worse against the other guys too. Talk about that a little bit. And like, why do you think that happened?
Like I said, when I first came in, granted, I wasn't wrestling Jasmine every day, but I was wrestling like Ben Shirk, who, at that point in his career, he's pretty wobbly, but he was an All-American. I was beating him. I was beating a lot of guys in the room. And to beating Tyler Nix, let's just put it this way. Everyone knows that he's not a great practice room wrestler, so I can't take too much credit. When the lights are on, he's damn good. And I'm sure I wouldn't have beat him in a real match, but like in the room, we all know he's not a great practice room guy. And we all know the practice room champions sometimes don't perform, in the big under the lights. But yeah, once I started wrestling Jasmine, he just took it to me, man. Like I said, I had one takedown that entire year, and Brands happened to be right there, and he's hooting and hollering from the side, and then I pick him up and I return him hard, and then he gets out and proceeds to just completely annihilate me. But not to get off subject, like I said, once he started just taking it to me, like I got in this slump where I didn't have a takedown until like February, unless I was wrestling like another freshman or, not a great sophomore. But yeah, Nick started killing me. Forces was killing me. Like it was a lot to take in. Like I said, those beatings from Jasmine helped, but at the same time, it put me in a huge slump that freshman year.
You battled through though, man, and you come back, the year, your sophomore year where you talked about, or your redshirt freshman year where you talked about where Zalesky said you're not leaving, you decide to stay. And that really created a bond with you and Zalesky. Talk about like the influence he had on you as a coach.
Awesome guy. What is it? Some former wrestlers say they, jump on a grenade for Gable. I would do that for Zalesky in a second to this day. He really believed in me and he showed it. and I think him seeing me and how determined but yet frustrated I was that I wasn't in the lineup in that what was it, 02-03 season, he kind of pulled me aside and took me under his wing type thing. And we started we went down to, what was it, junior world trials, and I took fourth. I lost I'll never live that one down. But then again, he became, a true freshman All-American. JD Bergman got beat by a high school kid in the semis and overtime, and then Askren for third and fourth. But no, he saw my progression, and then that summer was huge. So what we did, he started bringing me out to his place, maybe 2 times a week, and he had me drill on him. And then we did some strength and conditioning out in his yard. He had this long hose, which you wouldn't think pulling a hose is that hard, like a garden hose, but whatever it was, by the end, it was hard. Like you're pulling, and he'd run it back down. But that summer was huge for me. Like I said, technical wise, it was like these little adjustments he gave me that I really turned the corner that summer. And I credit him with literally like getting me to the next level, so to speak.
That's cool that even then, in his older age, he was still drilling and working out with you guys in the summer and not just passing it down to an assistant. Not
at all. And, getting back to that, I knew I turned the corner, because that was Jessman's, after the Nationals, I started getting those takedowns, and then I was losing, 6-4 in like an actual match. And before, like I said, he used to just kill me. Like it was awful, but that's when I knew I could compete, is when I finally was keeping it close with Jessman Smith. So,
and before we get to your redshirt sophomore year, I gotta ask, just from afar, I don't know if you wrestled him too much, but when Mocco came in the room as a freshman, I mean, what in the hell was he like in there?
He's intense. I mean, you get what you see, but a lot of people don't see how he was a really fun guy to be around, man, like outside the room. But when he's in that room or he's thinking about training, that's all it is. Boom, 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 100% training, he always wanted to train. We'd be sitting at his house, let's go train. I'm like, damn, Mocco, all right, let's go, but he was one of those guys, like, you think of listening to one of your podcasts, we talk about the Steiner brothers training 3 times a day type thing. Well, Mocco, I can't keep up with you, dude. Like, you're legitimately a savage, and it would have burned me out. But, I trained with him, I think we talked about this a little bit. So, his freshman year, he doesn't accomplish what he, set out to do. And the second year, he's on the tear. He's ready to get that national title. Well, you slowly but surely start to see our heavyweights getting injured here and there. And I don't want to say they were like, faking it, but you didn't want to wrestle Mocco. That's how bad he was. He was out there to hurt you, torture you, put you in pain. So, guess who's the next up? Me. Because I'm the backup 197, because they're not going to put forces with him. He'll get broke, like he'll, that's just how Mocco was. And
so they wouldn't put the starting 197 with him? That was like a known thing? No
way. Well, Fos had a bad neck anyways, and we all know Mocco, that's all he does is club your head. So that year he won it, I essentially was his training partner all season. Like I said, we had about 3 or 4 heavyweights that were out with injury.
So who would work out with him if you weren't? Did my man Coach O from Coe College come down once in a while?
Yeah, I saw Coach O in there a few times. I believe, Wes wasn't there yet, or he was in VTech. He was. I keep forgetting. Wes was. He was either there my freshman. I believe he might have been there that year. So I think Wes Hand was still there, honestly.
Got it.
Because he left, would have been my sophomore year when I actually started. Wait, no, he was at VTech. So he was there 1 year. So yeah, Coach O. And then they used to bring in some like foreign guy. And it was kind of weird because like we couldn't practice in the same environment. It was against NCAA rules. So what they did was, it was funny. It was like almost like a shower curtain that went all the way across. and they pulled it, and Mocco would be on one side wrestling this guy and get, practicing. We'd be on the other side. It's kind of funny, man, but kind of crazy.
God. Yeah, that's wild. I mean, but you think about, there's just not that many bodies who are that big and who can go 90 minutes, 5 days a week. I mean, pretty insane. And you were telling some stories that back then, this was the old school days where you might have a practice where it's just first guy to quit 45, 60 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, I figured that out through Jessamine Smith, because he would grab me every time, first one to quit. Well, this is kind of funny bringing it back, but the summer, I'll never forget, we're wrestling in, we have summer camps. It's like 100-degree heat in the field house too, so it was one of those days, wrestle till someone quits. Well, he starts choking me, and literally Bent Leg Turk has his arm around my neck, and yeah, man, I started throwing up all over myself. It was bad. And he's like, ugh. And I get up, and I'm still trying to wrestle. He's like, no, dude, you quit. I was like, no, I didn't quit. And here I got puke on the side of me. But yeah, so from then on, whenever I heard we had that practice, I would, this is kind of sad, I would always grab a freshman. And what I would do is I would get them in that same move, essentially a bow and arrow. And then I'd come across and cross face, and I'd get my hands locked. And I'd just slowly start notching my hands up, and I'd choke them unconscious. And I did that to 2 freshmen, actually, 2 years in a row. Because I knew it'd be the end of the practice. Because if not, no one's going to quit, and like I said, some of those other guys, 2-3 hours, they'd still be going. But I figured out how to get them to quit. Match is over. You got passed out. So
that's some tribal knowledge you learned right there.
Oh yeah, learned it the hard way, unfortunately.
What can you tell us about Mark Perry in the room? He was one of my idols growing up. I know he was on the teams when you were there, at least a couple of the years. Were you close with him, or does anything jump out of just working out with him every day, year in and year out?
Yeah, extremely close with Mark. When he came in, we're kind of like from the same niche, I was like a little bit more rough around the edges back then. So when Mark came in, it was kind of like a breath of fresh air. We really vibed. We were good. We became really good friends. Loved his style, loved the way he wrestled, and loved how he, obviously going against the grain coming to Iowa, was pretty awesome. But no, me and Mark were super close. He was actually my drill partner at the Nationals in 2004. So extremely good guy, man. And then, like I said, he came in the lineup that next year and made it to the NCAA finals, took second, and then went up to 74 the following year and took third, lost to Herbert in the semis, but still pulled out that Gorian Award, man. So extremely good guy, man. A lot of people don't know, man, Mark had a serious neck injury that would have been his sophomore year when he was wrestling 74. It's kind of amazing he was able to wrestle at that level and throughout the rest of his career. So
yeah, that weight is so filthy to look back on, to think that and then what Askren did to Herbert is just unbelievable. I mean, Flo did a great documentary on Askren, and that match is kind of profiled, but then you forget that Mark Perry was in the mix, man. It's like, God dang.
Yeah. And what Herbert did to, Perry, and like I said, not taking anything away from Herbert. I mean, Mark was extremely injured, herniated neck, and probably needs surgery to this day, but he's kind of fighting it. But yeah, what Herbert did to Perry in the semis, and then, he goes in the finals and Askren does that to him. It's like, dang, man, it was a stacked weight.
Definitely. Now one of my favorite parts about your career is, and this is just me looking at the brackets, going into the Nationals, your redshirt sophomore year, you were the 12th seed?
Right.
Dude, you make it all the way to the semis. You wrestle Greg Jones, one of the GOATs, lose that one, come back though. And did you get third or fourth?
I got fourth. So I tell my guys, my athletes here all the time, we got our national tournament coming up this week, and unfortunately, we're only sending one guy. We should have taken 4, honestly. We right there, our team wrestled above their seeds, but not getting off topic, but yeah, like I said, it doesn't matter your seed. Like I said, that year I was a 12 seed, made it to the semis. I lose to Greg Jones, and then I lose to the defending national champ for third and fourth, Jake Rolschalt. So
yeah,
you know.
So what do you think? So you're coming into that tournament. I don't know if you're a big self-talk guy or what, but like, how are you getting yourself mentally ready, like Thursday morning when the tournament starts?
My thing I tell the athletes even here is the Big Ten. My thing was always I'd start off real hot and then I'd hit the Big Ten season, and it's like such a grind. You never get a break. Every single weekend you have 2 matches, and the guy's probably either a top 20 guy or a top 10. And the smallest, it's like you're so close and level that it's just like a grind. So I used to get in these slumps where I'd end up, 4-4 or 6-4. But like I looked at the national tournament like, oh my God, there's light at the end of the tunnel, and I've been through the grind. I've been through all these tough matches. Oh, I'm wrestling this kid from Fresno State. He hasn't wrestled the Big Ten schedule, so in that respect, it was a lot of self-talk. And before I forget, like I said, I'm a huge fan, Ryan, but listening to your interview with Metcalf, and he talks about that class that was supposed to be a joke, Relaxation Techniques. That's the name of the class. He didn't know the name. I took that class, and I'll tell you what, he's 100% right. It's true. Like, you take your breath and you hold. I use that all the way through that season, all the way through my fight career, and it really helped to calm me. But Thursday morning, I'm thinking, all right, it's time to go. I'm excited. 3 more hard days of wrestling. And like I said, there's a light at the end of the tunnel where, it's not where I'm in Iowa City in February. There's no students here. We're training 2 to 3 times a day. It's dark when I go in. It's dark when I come out. It's like, it's starting to become nice out, things like that, like light at the end of the tunnel. It's like I said, I like to say, and it's just time to go out and compete. So.
And yeah, I mean, this time of year, it's really right about now is what you're talking about. Days start getting longer. Things just feel better, and you're excited about it. And so when you got 4th, was that the year Iowa got 2nd?
Right.
Man, pretty incredible to think that, in the midst of Oklahoma State's run, you guys pull off a 2nd. And like you said, win the Big Tens. It's just amazing to see that. Obviously, you wrestled way above your seed, and that was a big part of that. But going back to your breathing technique, so what was it? You kind of very simple, breathe in for 5 and breathe out, or was there?
Yeah. So you would, first you'd start with just deep breaths, and I would always do this in the back, like, because I'd always be super, super anxious. But it's weird, like it was the same thing in my fighting career. Like I get super nervous, but as soon as I got on the mat, I was completely fine. Or I got in the cage, I was completely fine. Mm-hmm. It's like time to do work, but when I'd be in the back, I'd put a towel over my face, and then I breathe in deep, breathe out. And then I'd do the holding after I kind of, I guess, got warmed up, so to speak. And then it just like calmed me down, and then I'd be ready to go. And then before I went out, get a quick little short warm up and time to go. So like I said, it's kind of funny that Metcalf brought that up, because I knew exactly what class he was talking about. Which it's a 1 hour credit. It's supposed to be one of those ones just to fill you, make you a full-time student if you're at, 11 hours or whatever. But dude, it was a really good class, man. Really effective class. And I still use it today. And it was awesome.
I'm going for a run as soon as we're done. I might throw on that Metcalf episode, because that's been a minute since that happened. And
oh yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm way back listening to the very beginning ones. So
dude, I'm honored, man. Thank you. And if you listen to the show, one of the things I try to hit on some climaxes, and then some times where you had some self-reflection and learned. There's a couple I want to pick from. Tell me about this 10-day period when you're living in San Diego, you go to Russia. Things, from what I understand, was a really tough period. And now you wouldn't be the coach you are now without that. What happened during that time?
Oh man, I call it my 11 days of hell. It was one of those things where I was going through a really bad breakup. There were some really bad things that financial things that was going on the side, with money
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't know about that, came to the forefront. So, I go over to first, I go fight in New York City and I lose a split decision to Yushin Okami, which that was tough, and then I get this offer to go fight in Russia in 6 weeks. And I'm thinking, well, I'm going to make a lot of money. I'm going to use that money to take care of this financial thing. And I'll go do that. So I'd moved out from my ex about a month before. And I'm living with these new guys that I was working, because at the time I was trying to take care of that financial thing by working a night job as a security guy in San Diego. Well, I go to Russia and I leave my dog with the new roommates, or not my new dog, my dog. I leave him with the new roommates, and I go over there and I lose it. It's a great fight. Russia, they love me. They it was quite the experience fighting in 25,000 screaming, crazy Russian fans in the Olympic Stadium. So
in Moscow?
It was great. Yeah, in Moscow, right in the heart of it. Yeah,
Holy smokes.
Yeah, it was crazy. There's, it was a Wild West out there. And the guy I was fighting, he was banned in America for steroids for 2 years. And of course we don't get drug tested over there.
How juiced up was he, dude?
I'm going to assume he probably was, but like I said, how would I know? But like I said, he was literally suspended in the US for 2 years, and he had just knocked out Melvin Manoff. So that guy was a beast back then with a spinning back fist. So, we're over there and it was crazy. Like I said,
he didn't even weigh in, just from the article I found.
He didn't show up. And then we did like an official fake weigh-in a few hours later. And but like I said, those are all things like I can't control those. I can only control me. So, a few hours later, he shows up, blah, blah, blah. But some things I want to point out about that trip that was so nuts, like it's Russia. And it just showed, first we're driving in and there's a big billboard of Trump in a Russian hat. I was like, oh my God. Yeah. And we get to the hotel and there's bullet casings outside and it's a nice hotel. And I'm like, what in the world? But getting to the arena, same thing, kind of like in wrestling, I'm all jittery. But as soon as I get to the arena, I fall asleep. Like I'm like in my comfort zone, it's when you're not in the environment where I'm like this, but as soon as I get to the arena, like I sleep for like 2 hours. But it's funny too, because they come into my locker room and they're like, oh, don't come out. They're a live animal coming through. I'm like, what do you mean? So I peek my head out the locker room door, and there's a guy walking out with a bear. Like that was his walkout. He has a bear on a leash. And I'm like, what in the world? Because his nickname was the Bear. But so yeah.
So that was like his walking to the ring mascot? They brought the bear?
The bear stands up and he waves at the bear. The bear starts waving at him. And then I come out to Country Boy Can Survive, and I had dancing cowgirls, and it was crazy. They were on tight ropes doing backflips. Like it was quite the event. Let's put it that way. And like I said, I lost, and great fight. Like I said, they offered me a contract, but I was already signed to World Series of Fighting at the time, American organization. And so I'm coming back, and I stopped by New York and stayed there for a night. Well, actually, no, I didn't. I was thinking about staying there for a night, and I didn't. Thank God. So I get back, and yeah, man, I don't want to get choked up, but I get back, and my dog's. You can tell he's really sick, and he's really dehydrated, and you can see his ribs, and he takes a drink of water, he throws up, and I'm really having almost like a nervous breakdown, because that's my best friend, and that's all I had at that time. I was kind of in my own little world, and
especially with the thing with your own relationship going down. I mean, that's so this is So what happened? Did your roommates not take care of him, or?
So it's not his fault, and I forgave him, but I did hold like a really severe anger and a grudge almost towards him. But he was kind of a dirty guy, and like for instance, he couldn't see anything on his floor in his bedroom. Well, the washer and dryer was in there, and he had flooded the house when I was gone. Well, my dog would always chew on anything that was wet, and apparently it feels good on the back of their gums or something. Well, what had happened was he had chewed on a towel, and he had swallowed a piece of it and it wrapped around his intestines, and it was like something killing him. And so yeah, I got back, and I ended up unfortunately going over to my ex's, and it was a mess, and telling her, hey, you need to come see Ice in the morning. He's dying. And so, man, she comes over, and he greets her and he greets me, and then he like goes and lays on the grass and puts his head down. It's like, you just know. And so I took him in and got the surgery. It was like $3,500. I have him, staying in the hospital overnight, and that's like another $1,500. So by the end, he died on a Thursday, and I spent essentially over $10,000 trying to save him. And then about a week later, I moved again. So I moved like 3 times in a month, because I just, like I said, I forgave the guy. It wasn't his fault, but like I just, at that time, there was so much anger. So I moved into another place, and I was still like hurting a week later, and I'm like, well, what's the best thing you can do? Is like, I got my Harley. That's how I just I came around a blind corner, and yeah, man, there was a car stalled out, and I hit it probably at 55, 60 miles an hour right in the back end. So
Holy shit.
yeah, so I was on the ground. I was in shock, more or less. There wasn't pain, but I had essentially down the middle. My lips were gone, so I was like trying to talk, and they were over here, and I'm like, why can't I talk? And right here, like bone, it was pretty bad. So yeah, I ended up in the hospital. I was actually discharged the next day. So yeah, it was rough, man. And I didn't know at the time I had actually broken my back in the accident. But yeah, the doctor said if I wasn't as strong and like as fit as I was, I should have been dead. So it was nuts, man. So it was some really tough days ahead. There was some depression that I went through from it. Not a lot of us wrestlers like to talk about those things because we're brought up to be tough and, mentally strong and all that. But no, it was rough. And, just to answer your final, you always ask, how has wrestling changed your life?
Yeah.
That's wrestling. I would have never made it through something that mentally grueling if I had not been through what I've been through with wrestling. So not to jump ahead and already answer that question, but like I was thinking that because you always ask that question. Well, wrestling prepared me for those challenges that I faced during those dark times. So, essentially, like I said, I didn't even know my back was broken at the time. And then when I did figure it out, it was like 7 months later, and we got the surgery and tried to come back and fight, and just wasn't the same guy. You could tell my timing was a little bit off, and everyone will say, even in wrestling, it's a game of inches, and you're off by that much. That's all it takes. So, I tried to do 2 fights 7 months after surgery, which probably wasn't smart, and just realized it's time to move on. It's time to move on with my life, and blessing in disguise, kind of, because it got me, to where I'm at today. And who knows, I could be one of those guys still trying to compete where, at my age, it wouldn't probably been smart, So I think everything happened for a reason. It was just a really dark time in my life at that point. And like I said, to answer that question, how did wrestling change my life? It prepared me for that dark time. So
And it's crazy that when you're, as a young man, you probably thought, losing a match or, I know for sure, like your junior year of high school, the state tournament was a pretty big time for you. So like, but then you look at, all right, when real life hits, I've had some traumatic relationship things happen, but nothing like that, where you got financial problems, you got your best friend, you got a relationship, and your health, all that's gone. I can't imagine the place you were in mentally in the weeks after that. And I was really asking just to understand, how'd you get out of it? Because there's a lot of people listening who are either in some pain, physical pain or emotional pain, or they're in a lot of pain. And just hearing that someone like you, who's like just the ultimate man's man, you were going through that too, is kind of in a weird way reassuring to folks out there who maybe aren't, two-time All-Americans at Iowa. And so any tips on how you came out of that?
Yeah. And like I said, I'm more than happy to open up about that type of stuff. Like I said, I battled depression. It does run in my family. My mom, she suffers from it, but she manages it well. Like I said, I always was taught, at Iowa, you got to be mentally tough. You can't show any emotion. You can't do this. And I think that can be very unhealthy not to let these things out. And when they continue to build, that's how breakdowns happen. And that's essentially, what I had was a mental, I'm not afraid to say it. When the dog died, I pretty much had a mental breakdown, but how I got out of that, therapy. And I'm not afraid to say that. I had a sports psychologist all the way through my fight career who was dealt with as a therapist. And there was a lot of time spent there getting through this. And he didn't particularly agree with me going back to my ex after the accident, which I did, because I needed someone to take care of me. I was that messed up. And he was right in the long run, but at that time I didn't have many choices. And I did a lot of therapy, a lot of soul searching. I dug into my kids' wrestling club I had in San Diego and really focused on them, because obviously watching them succeed makes me happy, and watching them grow as little athletes and little people is amazing as well. So I dug myself into that. When I was able to get back to training, I got myself dug into that, and I just surrounded myself with good people, man. Dominic Cruz just fought this weekend, and he was kind of instrumental in this. So when I first met Dominic, he was kind of a miserable person, if I'm being quite honest. Like, he was always angry, always negative. Well, he has changed since then and is a very positive person, and he's very nice to be around now. So being around him a lot too really helped change. And like I said, I just surrounded myself with really good people, very good teammates, friends. Jeremy Stevens, we became really close during that time.
Was Phil Davis down there at all?
Yeah, Phil Davis is down there. So yeah, I saw Phil a lot, but he's kind of doing, he's married, has his own little thing going, So no, I just, like I said, I ingrained myself with surrounding myself with good people, my kids club, and just got myself out of the rut, got myself out of the hole, and it worked out, man. Like I said, everything works out for a reason, even the losses in fighting. And at the end, it wasn't how you want to finish, but I mean, who really ever finishes on top when they retire? So dude, it all worked out, man.
And the craziest thing is that even if you do, a lot of times people still have those regrets. But to me, it's cool how you came out of it, and now you're coaching at a is it Queens University or Queens College?
Yeah, Queens University, Charlotte, right?
Queens University
in Charlotte, North Carolina.
And it's cool that Division II program, it hasn't been around that long, the program, and you're out there growing it. I mean, to me, you must have learned so much from just, coaching the youth kids is one thing, but then you're coaching kids who, maybe wrestling at the collegiate level is a new experience for them, and you're coming from the Big Ten. It must be a learning experience for you to try and, convey your philosophy while still keeping the guys engaged.
Right. Yeah, no, I love it. We have some really good kids here. We're in our fourth year, but technically it's our third as far as a Division II sanctioning anyways. No, it's been great. Like I said, like I said, everything happens for a reason. You know, when I retired from fighting, I didn't have a plan. I did not have a plan at all. So what I do, I went straight into construction scaffolding, and it was a rough, miserable job. You know, hanging off buildings, you know, 7, 8 stories up, and you're carrying heavy material, and it's super dangerous. So, you know, I'm up in Seattle, Washington, and I'm like, man, I got to get out of this. Like, this is not, it's not for me. It's not like a career that, you know, this is a young man's career, you know, and there's, you know, there's no retirement in something like that, and blah, blah. So I'm like scrolling through Indeed, and I know I want to get, you know, the more I'm starting to coach this youth club, I'm like, I really like being around kids, you know, and so I'm starting to think maybe I get my teaching degree. Well, that costs this much. Well, what if I just got back into college coaching, and you know, because they pay for it, you know, cool. So I'm looking. Obviously, this is in November. There ain't no jobs open. Well, there is one job open, and it's Queen's University. Like, okay, well, that's a little odd. And well, it's in Charlotte. I've been there one time for, you know, a UFC fight back in the day, cornering Jacob Volkman and Nick Lentz. I'm like, oh, well, it seemed like a pretty good town. And so I apply, and they get back to me, and they actually flew me out in the week before the Nationals 2 years ago. And yeah, man, had great bit, you know.
It went from November through March. Were you guys like staying in contact, or did you kind of apply and forget about it?
So I applied, and he got back to me in maybe January. I think I had to follow up with Tate, Coach Tate, and he's like, yeah, man, let's get you out here. And like, yeah, it would have been this week, actually, last year. It's like showing up on my memories, my interview and all that. So yeah, this week the week before, it would have been last week. Mm-hmm. But they fly me out, everything goes great. And then I go back to California. And so I'm in California. I'm still applying to other jobs because, you know, I think I have this locked down, but you never know. So I'm applying. I had interviews at Cal Baptist set up, Sacred Heart. I want to say there might have been another one I think I even applied to the grad assistant in like Minot State. Like I said, I was just I would have done anything to get out of that work I was in. And so, you know, I actually, I'm applying. Well, I get the job at Queens in June. And I actually, you know, I called, I believe, Baptist and Sacred Heart. And I'm like, hey, man, I need to expedite my interviews, and I need to find out an answer as quick as possible because it's not fair to keep Queens waiting, this and that. Well, you know, they couldn't expedite them. And I just said, hey, I got to take the offer because, you know, there's no guarantee I'm going to get those 2 other jobs. And if I let this one sit, and I may go to someone else. So thank God I took the job. And like I said, it's been amazing. I've coached at the Division I level, Indiana, as a volunteer assistant in University of Buffalo, Division I. And I love D2. I'm not gonna lie. It's more personable, I feel. You really get to know your student athletes, and you wear many hats in it. Let's put it that way. We're tracking their, you know, at a Big Ten school, you have, you know, people who track your students' grades, this and that. We have to do all that. We have to get them signed in the study hall. So the thing I like about it most is when I'm recruiting a kid, I really have to sell them on who we are as a university and people. And it's like, it's really cool, man. You make really good, close personal relationships with these kids where sometimes at Iowa, you know, that freshman, sophomore year, you kind of just feel like a number, you know, you're not the guy. So it's been really good, man. It's been really good.
That's awesome. And you're eventually going to have your teaching degree. So, I mean, God, who knows what you can do with that. Right. And man, you've lived in some of the best places ever. San Diego, just the best. And North Carolina has to be pretty sweet.
Yeah, I love it. We're actually, me and my fiance, we're building right across the border. So a lot of people don't know about, I don't know, whoever did the border lines of not Charlotte, but North Carolina and South Carolina. I mean, they must have been like drunk because Charlotte is like in this little, like almost U shape. And then you go straight, like I'm literally in downtown Charlotte right now, but I'm only 10 miles away from South Carolina, which we're going to be moving to Tega Cay or TGK, which is right across the border, like beautiful house, so much cheaper living out here, man. So much cheaper. And but no, to not get too far a point, I could drive from where I'm gonna live. I could go right and go east, and I'll keep going straight on the road, but I'll end up back in North Carolina. It's the weirdest thing. And then I'll keep going, and then you'll go further down and end up in Wilmington. It's like, who did the border, man? Like I said, it's super weird, but yeah, literally, yeah, we're going to be moving to South Carolina here soon, going down there, and going to be, I think, 0.5 from Lake Wiley. So starting to try to look into getting a boat, and no, it's awesome out here. I love it.
I'll be out there for the inaugural boat ride.
Yes, heck yeah, I'm excited, man. Whenever you want to come out, you let me know. We're going to actually, like I said, we're going to have a nice house. So we're going to have guest bedrooms, and already starting to get stuff set up for the man cave, blah, blah, blah. But yeah.
Love it.
Charlotte's a great place, and San Diego's amazing, but it's one of those things, like, this is how I explain it to people. So when I was out there, I was making good money fighting and didn't really notice, but one day you wake up, you're like 35 years old, you realize you can't buy anything unless you're making, 200 plus, and you probably got 3 or 4 roommates, and you're working 7 days a week. And it's just, that's kind of what happened to me. Is I'm working 7 days a week, and I'm just like, it's time to get out of here, man. Like, I can't afford it,
Yeah.
And so
it's a place of, some of the most formidable years of my life. Right after grad school, where I thought I was going to be a lawyer, I bombed the test. I went into sales, lived in San Francisco for 5 years. When you're in California, it is, you're on your own, dog eat dog. It's super expensive, super competitive. It's like a shaping period. I mean, you went through that at Iowa, but really when you're out there, if you're not from there, it's like a different world.
Oh yeah, man. Like I said, it's great to visit it, but hard to live there.
Yeah,
it's just the prices just keep going up there, and it's my fiance who I met out there. She was living in a studio downtown for $2,200 a month, and our mortgage at the new place is going to be less than that. It's brand new. It's 3 stories. It's a beautiful townhome. It's just absurd. And if you would take our townhome that we're getting built right across the border in South Carolina and put it in San Diego, it's $800,000 or more. It's just crazy, man.
Crazy. And it's cool that, just to see your journey come full circle, man. I'm super excited what you're doing out there at Queen's University. Also knowing that, I have some friends who coach at Co. The D2 and the D3, those regionals are ruthless and unforgiving, man. There's no room for error. There's not enough qualifiers, in my opinion. No. I don't think people realize how tough those regionals are, dude.
No, I try to. So I'm learning a little bit more and getting better at it. But every kid wants to go D1 now.
Yeah.
It's all over the TV. You can see it everywhere. And here's the other thing I want to point out too, because you give me this platform to talk, and I love it. And a lot of people listen. It's like these clubs, they need to start understanding like D1 isn't always the end. A lot of these guys go there and they're just a practice partner for 4 or 5 years. Where at D2, they can honestly go there and be successful. And like you just said, the competition really isn't that far off. If you look at even our region here, a lot of people don't know this, but we have 7 Division I schools here in North Carolina, only behind.
What?
Yeah, we got a ton. Believe it or not, you got Campbell, you got Gardner Webb, you got Duke, you got NC State, you have, I know I'm already missing. Yeah, App State. These are all right here.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So
props to the Carolinas for building out there. I mean,
for real.
Illinois doesn't have that.
No. So yeah, and I'll get to that too. I use it as a recruiting tool. So here's the thing. Like a lot of these guys in our region are D1 fallouts. Just thinking of Mitch Dean over at Belmont Abbey. He was at Clarion. But I do use it as a recruiting tool, as in, it's easier to go up than it is to go down. So if you're at a Division I, it's harder to come to D2, but it's easier to go D2 to D1. Now, I'll tell the guys who I'm recruiting, if they're on the cusp of like a D1 athlete, I have no problem releasing you if you come here and dominate, win 2 national titles, whatever. And you want that challenge. I have no problem, but first you got to prove yourself once you get here. But yeah, so I do use that as a recruiting tool. And like I say, like we have 7 of them right here in the state of North Carolina for you to look at. And but like, not to get too far off, if you look at our region, a lot of those guys are, like I said, D1 dropouts. Last year, Pembroke had a kid, I want to say it was like 25 years old, Key, last name Key, wrestled at App State. Well, heck, he was a national qualifier in like 2015, I think, and won a match. It was like the 14th. Yeah, it was like the 14th seed. But yeah, he was at, he was at Pembroke and number 1. And just, what is it, 2 weekends ago, Isaiah Royal, who's the number 1 seed at the region and number 1 in the nation, he gets beat 11-2 in the semifinal. So takes 3rd, thankfully gets a wild card. But yeah, it's just nuts, man. The level of wrestling at D2, it's not far off from D1 at all. And I like to talk about that a lot too, is you take the top 1 or 2 guys at the nationals in D2, they can compete at D1. Are they going to be All-Americans? Maybe, maybe not. But I look at the kid from Central Oklahoma at 84. That kid's good. Like he would challenge for All-American, if not a national title. He is super. I believe his name's Heath Gray. Same thing. He went to Oklahoma and then he transferred to Central Oklahoma. But really good kid. And yeah, man, it's no joke. D2 is no joke.
Not at all, man. And we gotta support all the programs. So it's awesome that someone like you is out there, helping build that program. I hope you get a kids club started soon, and you guys are dueling compound, the North Carolina versus Georgia. I mean,
not to cut you off, but
no, go ahead.
I gotta give him a shout out. I'm actually a assistant coach for the youth program over at Dark Horse Wrestling Club here in North Carolina.
Let's go.
Right here in Charlotte. Yeah, they're good, man. Great kids. I mean, their facility alone is like, dude, like it's amazing. It's better than most college rooms. Like
what's it called? Dark Horse?
Dark Horse Wrestling Club. So yeah, I work primarily with the youth and middle school. We have high school there. Obviously, I don't try to work with them too much just because conflict of interest being a college coach. But yeah, it's a great program. Like I said, I'm able to still coach the youth and be around those kids because, like I said, I love kids and it is a passion. But I do love coaching the college kids because it's just a complete polar opposites on, the mental aspect, and it's good to have both. It's refreshing too. So
that's sweet. They have a facility like that. It's amazing. The club facilities around the country.
Oh, I'm telling you, like I said, it's sometimes I'll have my Queens guys in there. Especially this summer during the COVID lockdown, they went in there and trained some, and it's unreal. I mean, it is unreal. It's like I said, we'll have like, for instance, we had Michonne Garrett down, last week, and they'll come in and be in awe. These guys, this is a kids club. Like, what in the world, So
dang,
beautiful, yeah.
Well, knowing there's that much wrestling out there, I definitely need to make a trip out to the Carolinas, and if I do, we'll definitely hit you up, man. It's been an honor chatting with you, and I'm so glad we could finally do it.
Dude, thank you so much for having me on, man. Like I said, I'm a fan of this show, and I've enjoyed the Smith series, the Gable series. Like I said, the best one is Piccolo?
Yes.
Piccolo?
Yes.
Dude, like the guy would never even wrestled. Like, it's crazy. And he walks on at Michigan State and becomes a 2-time All-American and a Big Ten champ. I was just like, and I use him as an example. We had a kid like who was like battling, a little bit of. Sorry about that. I live right next to the fire stations.
Don't worry about it.
They're always going off. But no, we had a kid who was, a little sick and didn't sing about not wrestling like a dual match. I'm like, this guy wrestled, with mono at the national tournament and takes 6,
Losing the first round, had to wrestle all the way back.
Crazy. Like,
yes.
So like, I'm like, dude, like, you're not that bad. Like, come on, toughen up. But yeah, that's probably my favorite episode, is because just listening to a guy who like essentially was like, came in the room as a hack, like didn't know how to drill. You could tell by the way he was telling it, no one wants to drill with him, but then works his way into like becoming like a 2-time All-American, which is amazing, you know. So like I said,
unbelievable.
Yeah, huge fan of the show. And like I said, that's everything from, you know, listening to people's careers and the coaching philosophies. Like it's been very instrumental for me as far as like even my coaching, like learning something new every day. So.
Well, I'm honored, brother. It means a lot that you listen, and appreciate you taking some time to come on the show and just share these stories. It's been a great conversation. We're gonna drop it today in about 2 hours.
I appreciate it, man. Like I said, I'll be excited. Shout out to you know, like I said, I've been so excited to do it. I hope I'm not talking too much, but like I said, I'm a fan of this show, and I encourage people, wrestlers, coaches, to listen to it because you're getting so much value from it. At least me, like I said, the coaching philosophy, looking at like a John Smith, comparing him to Dan Gable or Rob Cole, like it's good because you get that different perspective and insight on the mindset of how to train kids, you know, because no guy's the same. So we've got to train everyone differently here and there. But yeah, shout out to my jiu-jitsu club here, Charlotte BJJ. I said I'd give them props. So if you're in the Charlotte area, that's the place to be. Like I said, I don't spar or fight anymore, but I still have that competitiveness in me. So there's going to be no old timer tournaments, but maybe some BJJ tournaments. And then lastly, we're taking Noah Carreri to the Nationals this next week. I'm excited. We have the #1 seed right away, but hey, it's like I told him, we have to beat everyone anyways to be the national champion. You know, just other things, like I said, I've learned through your podcast and through my career alone, visualization is huge. So you know what I did? I gave the kid my All-American plaque from, happened to be in St. Louis, both All-American plaques. I gave him one. I said, I want you to set this next to your bed. Look at it every morning, every night before you go to bed. Visualize you with that hardware. Don't look at the metal collar because it's bronze. So take that out of the equation, but visualize looking at that and owning that after this tournament, and nothing but good things going to happen to you, man. So super excited. 174-pound kid, and I mean, I think if we go out and we compete and our mind's right, I think we challenge for a national title, and vice versa. You know, if we're not ready to go, it's going to be a tough tournament, man. That's all I got to say. Nothing but positive stuff for that guy, and I believe this kid can do it, man. I'm extremely excited for him, and like I was telling him, I've only had good luck in St. Louis, so Nationals in St. Louis, and like I said, I'm getting fired up talking about it, so I know he's ready to go.
Well, best of luck to your guy, man. We're pulling for him, and you just all those, you know, Division II, Division III guys who are out there scrapping right now. I know it's been a crazy year. Hopefully next year we're back, but you know, and just props to Queens, man, for starting a program, you know, when they really didn't need to. I think it's awesome. And man, I'm awoke to the Carolina scene right now. That stat's not going to leave my head all day. I'm baffled by that stat. 7 D1.
I want to say it's 7, but
at least 6 or 5. We counted a couple.
Yeah. I mean, it's Gardner Webb. I don't even know if I mentioned them. They're Division I. Here we go. Gardner Webb, App State, Duke, NC State, North Carolina. There's 5. Campbell. There's got to be one more.
There might be. Even that's a lot, though. I mean, man, great to see.
People don't know that. Oh yeah. So.
No, it's great to see. Paul Bradley, you're the man. Thank you so much for coming on the show, brother.
Yeah, man. Ryan, like I said, I appreciate taking the time and getting my story out there. And, you know, like I said, I had a great conversation, overcoming adversity and things in our lives. And, you know, just like I said, it's really good. I can't wait for my athletes to hear this and kind of get a little bit more into my story too, you know? So, you know, so I'm just not yelling at them saying, you know, hey, you know, they know I've been through the fire. So
absolutely. Well, take care, man.
All right, man. Thank you for having me on again.
That's it for this episode of Wrestling Changed My Life. Thank you so much for tuning in, folks. As always, thank you to our sponsor, Spartan Combat. They're hosting a national tournament in Jacksonville, Florida, May 20th through the 23rd. You can register now at SpartanCombat.com. To watch the video interview of this episode, go to Wrestling Changed My Life on YouTube. You can also see the clips on Instagram and Twitter at Wrestling Changed My Life. That's it, folks. We'll see you next time.